Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations. Climate Talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues. Symposium on Muslim Politics in World Society, our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies. Summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. Intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some really good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics. Book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications. Casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations. Climate Talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues. Symposium on Muslim Politics in World Society, our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies. Summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. Intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some really good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics. Book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications. Casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations. Climate Talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues. Symposium on Muslim Politics in World Society, our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies. Summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. Intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some really good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics. Book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications. Casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations. Climate Talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues. Symposium on Muslim Politics in World Society, our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies. Summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
Yeah, I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some really good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics. Book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications. Casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations. Climate Talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues. Symposium on Muslim Politics in World Society, our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies. Summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. Intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
Yeah, I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some really good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics. Book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications. Casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations. Climate talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues. Symposium on Muslim politics in world society. Our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies. Summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. Intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some pretty good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics. Book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications. Casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations. Climate talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues. Symposium on Muslim politics in world society. Our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies. Summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. Intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some pretty good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics. Book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications. Casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations, climate talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues, symposium on Muslim politics in world society, our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies, summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods, intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some really good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
Public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics, book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications, casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact. Welcome to the Faculty of Social Sciences at Universitas Islam International Indonesia, where we shape the future through education, research, and community engagement. Our mission is carried out through various educational, teaching, research, and non-academic activities. At the Faculty of Social Sciences, we explore the dynamics of social and political developments of Indonesian Islam, providing a comprehensive understanding not just for the Indonesian society but also for the international community. We offer 3 distinguished programs: Master of Arts in Political Science, Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, and Master in Public Policy focusing in climate change. Each program is designed to equip our students with the knowledge and skills to tackle global challenges. We provide rigorous education in social sciences and research methodologies. Our innovative research combines theoretical mastery with a deep understanding of social and political transformations, producing high-quality studies referenced by the academic community and policymakers globally. We host various regular events designed to foster a collaborative and engaging environment for students and faculty members. These include brown bag seminars, focused discussions on politics and international relations, climate talk, conversations addressing climate-related issues, symposium on Muslim politics in world society, our annual conference exploring the political dynamics in Muslim societies, summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods, intensive annual training sessions to enhance research skills.
I really enjoy teaching them. I think there's some really good ideas that people come up with that survey experiments can help develop their research.
public lectures, presentations by experts on diverse and relevant topics, book discussions, in-depth conversations on significant publications, casual gatherings, informal meetups that strengthen community bonds among faculty and students. Together, these events create a thriving, intellectually stimulating atmosphere where both students and faculty can excel. Join us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we cultivate knowledge, inspire change, and make a global impact.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Distinguished Rector of Universitas Islam International Indonesia, Professor Dr. Jamhari Maruf, Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences, Dr. Phillips Vermonte, our esteemed guest speaker, Professor Yuhki Tajima, respected UIII lecturers, invited guests, university staff, UIII students, and dear audience. A very warm welcome to you all. I am Amna Arshad, Master Student of Batch 2024. It is an honor and privilege to serve as your Master of Ceremony for today's event. I would like to begin by providing a brief overview of summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. This program has been organized by the Faculty of Social Sciences, UIII, for the past 4 years to support the students from UIII and other universities, as well as researchers and policy analysts and professionals from various fields. The training of this year began on June 30th and include 18 comprehensive modules. It will run until the end of August. More than 20 experts will lead the session, offering a valuable insights and practical knowledge. So here is a good news for you. Today there is extra 5% discount on the upcoming events if you make payment and register today. For further details, you can visit the website and follow the social media accounts of UIII and Faculty of Social Sciences. Now to formally begin the session, I would like to invite the Honorable Rector of UIII, Professor Dr. Jamhari, to deliver his welcoming address. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to everybody. Professor Yuhki and also friends from Georgetown University, Pak Dekan, the Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences, Professors of Social Sciences, and my beloved students. First of all, I would like to thank you for your coming to our lectures, and also this is the inauguration of our summer training that will be conducted in the 4th years. So it is our pleasure to have you here, and especially to Professor Yuhki for your coming. I think this is not your first time. You've been here before. Although you were surprised that there are so many buildings new, but actually we didn't build any buildings for 2 years because of the budget efficiency for the government. First of all and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Yuhki Tajima, founding rector of the Georgetown School of Foreign Service, Asia Pacific, and Associate Professor at Georgetown University, Washington, for his gracious visit and for delivering public lecture here at Universitas Islam International Indonesia. Professor Tajima is a distinguished political scientist whose work focuses on the political economy development, democracy, political violence, and international relations, particularly in Southeast Asia. He is widely recognized as one of the leading Indonesianists of his generation in North America, following the footsteps of renowned scholars such as Clifford Geertz, Dwight King, William Liddell, and Robert Hefners, all of whom have produced landmark studies on Indonesian politics and society. We are deeply honored to have you with us, Professor Yuhki. Your presence in our campus will no doubt inspire and motivate our students to pursue excellence and become engaged, highly quality scholars. As brief introduction of our university. So our university was established 2016. It was founded with a mission of becoming a university of international standing and leading model of Islamic higher education in the field of Islamic studies, social sciences, humanities, and technological science. We welcome our first cohort of our students in 2021. And as of today, our university is home to over 600 active graduate students, both master's and PhD candidates, hailing from more than 40 countries. In 2023, we proudly held our first inaugural commencement ceremony. And for this year, I'm pleased to inform you that almost 4,500 applicants to our university coming from 91 countries, but we can only accept around 250 students. Our university is still a young institution, but we do not use our youth as an excuse to move slowly or to fall behind. On the contrary, we are determined to move with unprecedented speed and purpose. With the collective dedication of our faculty, staff, and students, we are committing to turning the word international in our name into a life reality, realized through our vision and become world-leading institution, producing innovative discoveries, shaping bright future, and contributing to human progress and civilization through outstanding education and cutting-edge research. Ladies and gentlemen, today's public lecture is part of that large effort. This event also marks the official kickoff the fourth summer training on qualitative and quantitative method, organized by the Faculty of Social Science. The training will run in person from July to August 2025, offering a rich curriculum that spans from introductory to advanced models in both qualitative and quantitative research method. With 18 modules and courses, as far as we know, this is the first comprehensive summer training of its kind in Indonesia. We aim to make this annual flagship event that reflects our commitment to rigorous scholarships, high quality education, and meaningful education engagement. And mind you, there will be 5 discount price for you this morning to join this very interesting and also important training. Finally, I would like to congratulate Dr. Philip Vilmonte, Dean of the Faculty of Social Science, and his entire team for making this important event possible. Please know that the university fully supports this initiative and will continue to provide the resources needed to ensure that this program not only continues this year to come, but also continues to improve in scope and quality. Thanks you once again, and I wish you all a productive and enriching session. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor, for your words. Next, I would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences, Dr. Phillips Vermonte, for welcoming remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome respected Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, MC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to everyone. Thank you, Pak Rektor, for officiating the summer training program this year. This is the 4th year that we organize this meeting. the training. We started with a concern 4 years ago. We thought training on method was not enough in the classrooms because it's only 2 years program. You only had master's student at the time. So we came up with this idea of having a summer training for our students. It turns out, Pak Rektor, there have been many interested parties, and they asked if they could join and so on. So we opened it up, and then we are now entering the 4th training session. Secondly, Pak Rektor mentioned about the applications to the Indonesian International Islamic University. This training as well, we've seen increased participants. Last year we had 250s spanned through these various modules. So hopefully this year we will increase the number of participants again, because we want to provide public goods to Indonesian universities, which we feel at the Faculty of Social Sciences need some kind of a more solid and robust method training, so we can come up with better research, in particular in social sciences. And we also collaborate with various parties. The Indonesian Association of Pollsters, a national survey agency, had been as well conducted. This is the 4th year as well of the Indonesian Pollsters Association, which providing some support. And the Faculty of Economic and Businesses of the University of Indonesia also collaborated with us. They had their own modules on the impact and monitoring and impact evaluations, which as well needed by government agencies in particular. So we are, if in the audience you want to collaborate, we would be very happy to talk. And thirdly, if I may report, Pak Rektor mentioned about the Indonesianist. Pak Yuhki Tajima certainly is one of the experts on Indonesia. He had been in Indonesia years ago before with World Bank, doing research in Aceh, had some research in Timor-Leste, if I'm not mistaken, and then that would be a benefit for all of us here at the UIII, if we can continue the collaboration as Pak Rektor was suggesting. Pak Yuhki, thank you very much. And as well, we were the academic sons of some of the great names that Pak Rektor mentioned. Dwight King was my supervisor. And then Pak Rektor was just asking me, because we got a request from our Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs to conduct a conference of Indonesianists. So our Foreign Ministry kind of planning to invite experts on Indonesia to come home. Those who are doing research from years ago, now they are professors, some of them become officials in some countries. So we are going to invite them to come back and have a conversation. So if things go as planned, we will probably invite you once again, Prof. Yuhki, to that conference, and it will add as well to the knowledge of Indonesia, seeing by experts from outside Indonesia. That Pak Rektor assigned us at the Faculty of Social Sciences, help the Indonesian Foreign Ministry. And lastly, thank you for the participants for attending, and the students. And I see some familiar faces and not so familiar faces, meaning there are more people coming from outside UIII. I hope you will benefit from the training, as well as in particular this session. And for the next 2 or 3 months, we will be here together in various modules and session, and we are waiting for your feedback so we can do it better next year. And to Pak Tesriono, the convener of this year and last year, thank you for your hard work. It's not easy to organize schedules of these various instructors from different universities, not only from Jakarta, but from overseas and from other cities in Indonesia. It's been a hard work paid off, in my view, and for the team of the Faculty of Social Sciences. Thank you, Pak Tesri. So I hope you enjoy, and benefit as much as we did in the past 3 trainings. And I believe this one will as well be benefiting all of us. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak, for your speech. Now I would like to invite Pak Gide Metra, who is the faculty member at MPP program and a research fellow at the Institute for Advanced Research at UIII.
I think you should invite Professor Tajima as well to come forward. Prof. Tajima, please, welcome. Please join us to welcome Professor Yuhki Tajima. First of all, thank you so much for coming and being able to deliver the public lecture. We are very excited to have you here. Thanks again. And because Prof. Jamhari, our rector, and the dean, Prof. Vermonte, has already given introduction, I think I can be allowed to be brief here. Professor Tajima, to many of us, I believe, needs no introduction because his book on Indonesian politics, The Institutional Origin of Communal Violence, the 2014 Cambridge University book, I think has been read by students of Indonesian politics. I remember reading Prof. Tajima's book during my graduate school. It's a great book, sophisticated method, combination of statistical analysis and rigorous case study. It's an exemplary of what great social science should be. I think without further ado, but let me just briefly mention what Professor Tajima has been doing lately. I think that's also really important. Prof. Tajima is the founding rector of Georgetown School of Foreign Service Asia Pacific and an associate professor at Georgetown University in the Edmund Wall School of Foreign Service. Professor Tajima led the effort to establish Georgetown School of Foreign Service Asia Pacific in Jakarta, the new branch, from 2022 until its establishment in January 2025. The brand serves as a hub for innovation and learning focused squarely on meeting the challenges of the global South and Asia Pacific. As director, Professor Tajima founded the Executive Master in Diplomacy and International Affairs, the MDIA program, right? This is fascinating initiative from both Georgetown and Professor Tajima. And hopefully in the future, as our dean also mentioned, there's going to be institutional collaboration between UIII and Professor Tajima new institution. All right then, without further ado, we will have Professor Tajima delivering a public lecture, his public lecture titled How Peace Prevails, Evidence from Aceh and Mindanao. You have like 1 hour, Professor Tajima. Please join me to welcome Prof. Tajima again.
Is it okay if I stand?
Come again?
Is it okay if I stand? Okay, wonderful, thanks. And is there a clicker? Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the warm welcome and the wonderful and overly generous words to all of you. I'd like to, first of all, thank Rector Jamhari for inviting me here once again, this time in the capacity of an academic, which I almost forgot how to be, but I'll try to remember because I've become an academic administrator full-time, and so this is the first time in a long time that I'll be able to put on my academic hat. I'd also like to thank Dean Phillips Vermonte once again for your friendship and support and inviting me here. Dr. Testriono for convening this wonderful workshop series, and of course Dr. Gide for your emceeing and moderating this talk today. I am part of the Jakarta intellectual community now, very proudly, having now moved here in January to lead our efforts, Georgetown's efforts in the School of Foreign Service, Asia Pacific, which is now, we have our new branch campus located around Bundaran HI. So I invite all of you to come visit us at some point, and certainly to Pak Rector and to Dean Phillips to come and visit us as well. One of the main reasons why we chose Jakarta was to be part of the intellectual community here, so we can do this very type of engagement, to be able to exchange ideas for people who actually know Indonesia. This is a real value for scholars like myself, but also my colleagues at Georgetown. So this is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm looking forward to further opportunities to maybe have some kind of institutional exchanges as well. So thank you so much. I'd also like to congratulate UIII, Pak Rektor and Dean Phillips, for the new think tank, the Indonesian Institute for Foreign Affairs. It's a wonderful initiative, and I'm looking forward to seeing other sort of outputs from this newest think tank. Certainly, being part of this ecosystem, we get to benefit from products that come out of think tanks like yours. And finally, I'd like to congratulate you on the 4th annual summer training on qualitative and quantitative methods. This is something that I wish we had when I was in graduate school about 20 years ago, because it's such a rich mixture of both qualitative and quantitative methods, right? Oftentimes they're either one side or the other, qualitative or quantitative, and I love how you bring them both together, because I'm a big believer in mixed methods. I think it's important to draw on the strengths of qualitative and quantitative methods, because they have weaknesses as well. And this is something that I try to sort of make up for as well in my own research. And so when I was talking with the dean about which project to present on, it was clear that this is probably a better representation of what you all are going to be covering through these qualitative and quantitative workshops. So what I'm going to be talking about today is my second book project, which alas has been going on for basically since 2006, when I was living in Aceh. So I started this project almost 20 years ago. I like to tell people, I like to tell my wife in particular, that the reason I've taken so long is to make sure that the peace in Aceh holds. So far, so good. But then also I was incorporating a second case study, which is Mindanao. So that took a bit of time. And in the meantime, I've been busy with setting up this new branch. So pardon me if I'm a little bit rusty on things, but my second book project is called How Peace Prevails: Insurgent Cohesion and Fragmentation in Aceh and Mindanao. Today I'll be focused mostly on the Aceh case study, but I'll talk a little bit about the Mindanao case as well going forward. So the big question that I'm trying to address in this book is, why do some peace agreements succeed in ending civil wars while others fail? And so this is one where we actually see some stylized facts from the literature that recurrences are one of the main reasons for the existence of civil wars since 2000. So about 90% of civil wars active in the 2000s were recurrences, not new civil wars. One of the things that we find is that the way to end civil wars more effectively is through military victory, not peace agreements. Now, this is a troubling finding, because that means there's sort of more violence when you have military victory. So for those of us who believe in the importance of diplomacy and peace agreements, we have to understand what is the reason for the recurrences when we do have peace agreements in order to make them more effective. And in particular, one of the things that the literature finds is that fragmented insurgencies are more likely to recur. And in particular, when we have splinter cells. So when you have a peace agreement, oftentimes you have a splinter group that emerges, and that's what causes 39% of recurrences. And in particular, these splinter cells form more often right after peace agreements. So this is really one of these are sort of the puzzles that I try to address in my book. Now, if we look at the case of the Philippine Moro movements, basically in the southern Philippines, this is actually a really quintessential example of what I'm talking about. So the Moro movements, they started in the early 1970s, the first one being the Moro National Liberation Front, used to be called the MIM. This is in 1972, and 4 years later, they actually came to their first peace agreement in 1976. And promptly thereafter, a new splinter group formed, which is called the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, the MILF. And so you can see that there is some splintering already occurring after this first peace agreement. Now, later on in 1991, there's a new splinter group, which was called the Abu Sayyaf group that formed. And then in 1996, you see that there was a new, which was the final peace agreement between the MNLF and the government of the Philippines. And following this agreement, you can see that there was splintering that that formed where you had some disaffected MNLF members who joined the MILF and the Abu Sayyaf group. And so you see more and more splintering, and then in 2008, there was a failed agreement, the first agreement between the MILF and the government of the Philippines. And that led to even further splintering, the biggest group being the BIFF in 2010, but also smaller groups called the AKP and the Maute group. Now you might recognize the Maute group because they were the ones who started the siege of Marawi that destroyed the entire city in 2017. We also see further splintering from the BIFF and Abu Sayyaf group, and all four of these groups right here in this box, they all sort of decided, okay, we want to pledge allegiance to ISIS, and they were the ones involved in the Marawi city siege. Since 2008, we had a new peace agreement, which is the 2012 Framework Agreement, which seems to be holding up, and it was modeled in some part based on the Aceh Agreement. And we see that this led to the Bangsamoro Organic Law, which is effectively a local constitution. So it provides a lot of local autonomy to the Bangsamoro region in Muslim Mindanao. So far so good in that recent peace agreement. But as you can see, the peace process in Mindanao has been much more fraught, much more difficult and extended than the peace process in Aceh. And this is really the comparison that I'm trying to make between the two cases. One which is more successful, which is Aceh, and one that is far less successful, which is in Mindanao. So focusing on the Free Aceh movement, this is the success case, and the reason why I chose it was because of certain similarities with the Moro movements. They both started their insurgencies in the early 1970s. They claimed a distinct culture, Aceh, of course, being distinct from the Java-centric sort of Indonesian model, religious identity being quite distinct, as well as a different colonial history. But importantly, we see a big difference with the peace agreements with GAM, which was very successful in ending violence between GAM and the state. It prevented the emergence of splinter groups much more effectively than in the Moro movements. And there were a series of competitive elections, some of which were violent, but more increasingly became peaceful since 2017. And so this is where one of the main questions that I'm addressing is, when are peace agreements more likely to succeed or fail? And second, we'll get to the second one in a bit, but this is sort of drawing on a broader literature, which is trying to identify different mechanisms for understanding why peace is sometimes more difficult to be attained. So there's this thing called the external commitment problem. So this is due to Barb Walter and Paige Fortna, who talk about the difficulty when you disarm. So when insurgents put down their arms, you know, the thing that got them to the peace table, the negotiation table rather, was the presence of arms, right? That's the reason why the government says we need to negotiate. But when you put down your arms, it's harder to hold governments accountable to the peace terms. So that's part of the irony of peace agreements, is that you put down the arms, you don't have anything to pressure the government with. On the other hand, there's the difficulty of holding insurgents accountable to their commitments as well when the government withdraws. That was the thing that brought the insurgents to the negotiating table, right? This is called the external commitment problem. So that's one approach to peace building. But I think there's a more pernicious problem, which is the internal negotiations that happen once you've actually signed the agreement. And this is where it's difficult, once you sign an agreement, for distributing peace dividends, or what we might call rents. And so when you distribute rents among former combatants, anytime you put money in the middle of a table, there's going to be competition. And that competition can lead to resentment. So that's a real problem in peace agreements. The second problem, as I mentioned earlier, is the issue of splinter cells. So how do you deter splinter groups? And so what I'm trying to do is try to think about all four of these issues when it comes to the problems of peace agreements in a coherent theoretical framework. So how do insurgent leaders maintain cohesion and prevent these splinter cells from forming and ensure that their organizations comply with peace agreements? So you don't have people saying, okay, I don't want to be part of the peace agreement anymore. So basically, the bottom line story of my theory is that we have to look at what I'm calling areas of direct control. So within an insurgency or an insurgent area, you're going to see that areas where leaders have direct control over their foot soldiers are places where leaders are able to distribute their rents within their network and then use their coercive capacity to effectively keep splinter cells from forming and keeping their combatants in line. The second aspect is in areas of indirect control, leaders won't be using violence as much, but they'll be paying off the mid-level commanders in these areas. And so this is where you'll see that there's more of a use of carrots rather than sticks. And the splinter groups in these areas will be more viable if they're not paid off enough. Okay? And this is what we'll see actually in Mindanao. So how do we define direct control? Direct control is referring to either units or areas in which insurgent leaders have direct social and operational linkages with their foot soldiers. Right? So this is where the central commanders have direct social ties to the foot soldiers in the field. Okay? They interact directly. They have their cell phone numbers. Right? So if they need something done, they can call or text their foot soldiers, okay? And give them orders directly. Indirect control is where you have units or locations in which central leaders rely on mid-level commanders. Now, mid-level commanders, these are really key actors, and this is really the focus of a lot of what my research focuses on, because mid-level commanders are the ones who can say, you know what, I'm going to take all of my foot soldiers and form a new splinter cell. So this is where the MILF, they were mid-level commanders that were not happy with the MNLF leadership, and so they said, we're going to bring our foot soldiers and form a new group. And that's really the danger of peace agreements that don't take into account fragmentation enough. And so here, insurgent leaders lack that direct social and operational control, and they rely on local commanders here. So during the war, we see two types of control, direct and indirect control. But what this does, where this is relevant after wars, after peace agreements have been signed, is in the internal negotiations between the central commanders and the mid-level commanders. Right? So the mid-level commanders, they negotiate for rents, basically the village, right? And then the rest of the sub-district, the kecamatan, and then the rest of the district, right? And so he was strongest around his own home base, which is his village, right? And then going outward, his power attenuated. In other words, the number of people under his control went down. Now, this might look familiar to you for scholars of Southeast Asia. It might look like the profile of a mandala. Remember, the mandalas are sort of concentric circles that sort of get weaker as you go away. So this is what a mandala might look like from the side, okay? And so the insurgent leader has this kind of coercive capacity in his territory, okay? Now, what we see is if you have an insurgent leader in one area, they might one day say, you know what, we want to expand to another area. We want to go to a different area. So in Aceh, the home base was on the east coast of Aceh, okay? First around Pidi, then they moved to Biren and North Aceh, okay? That was their main home base, okay? And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, actually the GAM leadership said, you know what? We want to expand to the Central Highlands and to the West Coast. Well, how do we do that really quickly? Because this is our window of opportunity, because this is right after Suharto fell, the economy was in a shambles, and so they thought, okay, we need to do this quickly. Well, how do you do it quickly? How do you recruit in the West Coast of Aceh? Well, you look for a local commander who can start to recruit from among his foot soldiers, right? So they started looking for people who could round up more combatants, okay? So they went out to the local commanders over here, and these local commanders started recruiting from their villagers, their relatives, their friends, and then that power slowly attenuated to the side, okay? Now here, this is an example of indirect control, because there's no overlap between the leader's coercive capacity and the local commanders, right? They're completely distinct or dispersed. So this is an example where actually the local commander has a lot of autonomy from the central commander, okay? So the central commander has to say to the local commander, please do these orders, follow my orders, and then the local commander will decide, okay, I'll follow or I'll disobey. There's no direct order there, okay, to the foot soldiers. And here, one of the things we'll see is that local commanders actually are able to use that leverage later on for more rents. In these areas, you're going to see less coercion after the war between the central commander and the local commander's forces, okay? This is a visual representation of direct control. So unlike in the previous slide, the leader has an overlapping area of coercive capacity with the local commander, okay? So that dotted line shows you kind of to the left of it, the leader has the upper hand. The leader has more coercive capacity than the local commander does. And so that's where the local commander can actually use violence against the forces of the local commander, okay, to get his way. To the right of it, the local commander has more sort of leverage. And so what you can actually see is the leader can even move some of his forces over to the local commander's territory and use violence against the local commander if the local commander doesn't obey his orders, okay? And that's why you're going to see more violence after the war between sort of central commanders and local leaders there, okay? But this is an area of direct control. Again, there's more leverage for the central leadership. The leader himself will then use that position to provide greater rents to people who are loyal. So in other words, the people in his big triangle, and exclude the people in the other triangle, okay? And so, like I said, there's going to be more violence or coercion towards those who are outside of the leader's network, okay? That's a sort of territorial way of thinking about direct and indirect control. This is an organizational chart that represents the same thing, but it's also useful to show not just the territorial depiction of it, but also the organizational approach. So here, This is actually a simplified depiction of GAM's command structure. So there are 4 levels of officers in the Gerakan Aceh Merdeka, Free Aceh movement. So at the top is the Supreme Commander. So the most recent one was Muzakir Manaf. So he is the current governor of Aceh. The Supreme Commander is at the top, so that's S up there. 1 level down is the District Commander level. Okay, so this is the Panglima Wilayah in Aceh. Anyone here from Aceh? Ada yang dari Aceh? Aceh mana? Banda Aceh, okay, yeah. So I used to live in Banda Aceh, yeah. So at the District Commander level, you have 17 of them. So these are Panglima Wilayah, okay? These are very important in the whole scheme of things. These are what we might call the mid-level commanders, okay? These are the ones with the capacity, if they're unhappy, to form their own splinter groups who could cause problems, okay? This is what we see in the MI left, for example, okay? Under each district commander, there are 4 area commanders. So Panglima Daerah, okay? So this is at the Mukim level, okay? And then under them, there are 4 more, which is Panglima Sago, which is at the sub-district level. Okay, so there are 4 area commanders for each district commander, and there are 4 sub-district commanders for each area commander. Okay, that's the structure. And what the literature generally looks at is just what the structure looks like, the formal structure. What the literature doesn't look at is the informal social networks that are overlaid on top of the formal structure. And that's really, I think, the big hole in the literature, is because they're not looking at the relationships within the network. They just see the structure and that's it, right? So here what you'll see is a depiction of those that have a direct line of communication with the Supreme Commander, okay? So, no light, okay. So you can see the dark line, the thick line, that represents a direct connection between the foot soldiers, let's say over here, at the bottom here. So that means a sub-district commander can call the Supreme Commander or text the Supreme Commander directly. They have their cell phones, they know each other, they've broken bread together, they're close, okay? And so this is an area of direct control. This is a unit under direct control of the Supreme Commander, okay? Whereas right next to them, it might be someone who doesn't have Muzakir Manaf's cell phone, okay? So this is where they are outside of the direct control. So this area is an area of direct control, but you have units that are under direct control and units that are not under direct control, okay? Why does this matter? Well, according to what we just talked about, what we'll see is the units here will be rewarded with more rents after the war than the units that are outside, okay? Well, the units that are outside will say, hey, we fought the war too. We paid the price. Lots of our colleagues, our comrades were killed. We suffered in the jungle. Why shouldn't we get more peace dividends as well? So there'll be resentment. And when they sort of say, hey, we need some more, and some of them might raise a fuss, may threaten to splinter, that's when the Supreme Commander will then use his network to use violence against the others to bring them back into line, okay? So there should be more violence in these areas. Now looking over here, notice here that a sub-district commander doesn't get all the way to the Supreme Commander, doesn't have that direct link. The highest they can go is the district commander. So they can call or text the district commander, but not the Supreme Commander. So this is an area of indirect control. And so this is where the Supreme Commander can't order people directly in these areas, okay? And so this is an area of indirect control, and these guys won't get as many rents. They won't get as much violence either, though, okay? But the district commander will probably get some rents just to keep him in line, okay? So this is the organizational depiction of my theory. And so we have 3 hypotheses that we'll be predicting, that we'll be testing rather. This one is the second one. I don't know why this is animated this way, but commanders and lower level fighters and operational units that have closer ties with the central leadership, basically those under direct control, during the war will receive more rents after the war. Okay, that's what we'll be testing statistically in a little bit. Okay, we'll also see that former insurgents at the higher ranks will be able to get more post-war rents because they have more leverage to threaten the central leadership. Okay, and then the third area is that we'll have areas of direct control which will exhibit greater intra-insurgent violence. So these are the ones who will be sort of using violence more, okay? How do we test this? Well, this is where we come to this methodologies that are the theme of this summer through both qualitative and quantitative fieldwork. So I spent about 14 months living in Aceh, as well as some time doing fieldwork in the southern Philippines from 2006 until 2019. About 300 plus interviews in Aceh and the southern Philippines. The main source of data here is on surveys. So I did a survey of 1,051 ex-combatants in Aceh. This is representative of the entire force. There's about 15,000 total GAM fighters, about 3,000 civilians, and 751 Kepala Desas. I also was given access to pork barrel spending, which is basically dana aspirasi. So I was able to get dana aspirasi allocations, which is basically a way that people were able to get pork barrel spending, okay? I also relied on the National Violence Monitoring System violence data. And then I conducted a couple of surveys in Mindanao, one that was in this very difficult area called the SPMS box, and then another with MNLF integres. So this is not a very great map of Aceh, but just wanted to point out what I said earlier, which is the east coast, which is kind of on the northern shore there. That's the homeland of GAM, okay? In the middle, where you see Central Aceh, Bener Meriah, Takengon, that's kind of a newer area because it's where you don't have as many ethnic Achenese. You have ethnic Gayo there, also some Javanese. Very interesting. We've had some Javanese who've been there for 4 generations who still speak Javanese, actually. It's very interesting. And then on the west coast, this is kind of the newer area of expansion. So this is where they have what we might call indirect control there, okay? When we sort of set up an empirical model, right? So we've sort of laid out the theory. The idea being direct control, you should have more violence, more rents, okay? How do we sort of measure the main explanatory variable? So some people call this the independent variable. So the explanatory variable is direct versus indirect control, okay? So we're going to look at this at both the individual level and then the sub-district level. So at the individual level, this is where we can use a proxy, which is in our survey, we included a question which was, which commander knew your name? So all of them said, my sub-district commander knew my name. All of them, almost all of them said the area commander, basically the Panglima Daerah, knew my name. At the wilaya level, not everyone had their Panglima wilaya know their name. And at the central commander level, most people did not have that kind of linkage, okay? So that helps us measure the degree to which there were social connections and interactions between the central commander and the respondent of the survey. Again, it was 1,000 combatants in the survey. We also asked whether the Supreme Commander sometimes gave operational commands directly to the respondent's unit. And then third, the Supreme Commander sometimes directly disciplined the respondent's unit. So these are 3 measures of direct control, okay? At the sub-district level, what we'll use is the total number of fighters in a sub-district with direct linkages to the central faction, to the Supreme Commander. So, if we just look at what these measures look like in each of the districts in Aceh, this is whether the percentage or the proportion of respondents, ex-combatants, for whom the Supreme Commander sometimes gave orders, okay? So West Aceh, you can see it's maybe 6%. Southwest Aceh, maybe 7%, right? So very few of them had direct orders from Muzakir Manaf, the Supreme Commander. When you go to the East Coast, so Biren, East Aceh, North Aceh, and PD, you see more and more percentages of the ex-combatants actually got direct orders during the war, okay? And that makes sense because that's where Muzakir Manaf was from. And if you look at Biren in particular, Biren had the most, okay? So Biren was where they were the most likely to know Muzakir Manaf because that was where he was hidden. So during the war, they would move him from village to village to village in Biren. Until one day, they said, you know what, it's too dangerous here. We need you to move to the Central Highlands. So they moved him to Central Aceh. And you can see Central Aceh has the highest likelihood of having a direct connection. And the respondents that I would interview there, they talked about their direct social networks with him, where he would spend time, a lot of the time there with him. Moving to the dependent variable. One of the dependent variables is economic rents, okay? So these are some former combatants. This was taken in 2006 when the peace agreement had already been signed. And on the left, one of the ways in which ex-combatants would be sort of rewarded was through post-war aid, okay? So reintegration aid. Not everyone got it though, okay? So some got it and some others didn't. In this case, this gentleman was given startup capital to build a warung, basically a little store, a kiosk, okay? And so that's what he built, and then he started a business that actually gave him income. On the right, the gentleman in the middle, he was the local commander, and he was able to get startup capital. He got 2 houses, one for each of his wives. He also had startup capital for his farm, so he had a very thriving farming business, okay? Probably the bigger money, though, was through contracts. So what you'll see in Aceh is some of the more successful ex-combatants, they got government contracts to build construction, basically, right? So construction contracts with the government. This is actually a case in which these 2 former combatants, this is the supervisor, this is obviously an operator of an excavator. These guys were part of a pretty well-connected faction. And so they worked directly for this leader, and they won a bid, and they were building a dike. And here they're actually doing the work, which was good. Some of the projects were actually not done, and they just simply got the money, okay? But in this case, they actually were doing the work, which was good, okay? But in any case, they benefited economically from this relationship with someone who's well-connected, okay? And so we have a way to sort of put together a lot of these rents. So there's a way you can sort of put together an index, which is called a weighted index of of post-war rents. And basically, I combined whether or not people received help from KPA. KPA is the basically what they renamed GAM as. It's the Veterans Association. Whether they helped them get a contract from the government, whether they got a job, a loan, becoming a contractor themselves, a job in the KPA, or war-related aid. So we can put all of these into a weighted index. That weighted index helps you get rid of some of the sort of challenges of multiple inference. We also have a bunch of different control variables. Okay, so at the village level, we have the number of war casualties in a village, the percentage of houses that were burned down during the war, so that's a proxy for how violent it was. Support for GAM, whether the village was primarily a GAM base, whether GAM forced civilians to provide food for them during the war, percentage of houses that were damaged by the tsunami, whether it was a hilly location, an urban location, what the poverty rate was, okay? Also, we have household variables, so whether or not your house was work was damaged by tsunami or the war, whether there was a death in the family due to the war, tsunami damage, and the total number of households members. And finally, individual variables as well, including whether or not you were a GAM officer, and the number of years of fighting. So you can use all of these as control variables, and what we see just as one of the sort of empirical results is, so the dependent variable, again, is the patronage index. How much patronage did ex-combatants, individual ex-combatants receive? And the prediction is that you should see a positive relationship between whether or not you were connected to the Supreme Commander and whether or not you receive patronage. And you see here that there is a positive and statistically significant correlation between whether the Supreme Commander knew your name and how much patronage you have. Similarly, whether the Supreme Commander ordered you and also disciplined you. And all of these combined are also positively and statistically associated, right? So this is sort of supporting my theory on the first level, okay? But let's talk about politics. Right now, it looks like an economics paper, right? Which is all fine and well, but obviously war is really about politics, okay? So here we actually have to think about what the different factions were in Aceh, or still are. So the person on the right, his name is Malik Mahmud. He was the prime minister of GAM, who was based in Singapore during much of the war. He sort of became the de facto leader when Hassan Ditiro, sort of his health declined over the years. And the person that he sort of interacted most with was Muzakkar Manaf, who was the supreme commander from around 2002 onward. So this is the supreme commander. He's probably the most important in my book. And then this gentleman here is Irwandi Yusuf, who was one of the negotiators for GAM, and he became governor initially. Now, there is a whole story here. So the first election, which was really the main point of the peace agreement in 2005, okay, was to have a local political party be able to run for local office in Aceh. Okay. Why is that important? So why is it important to have a local political party be able to run for election in Aceh? Like, why was that so important for the peace agreement to hold? Any ideas? Yeah. So it would encourage more civic participation, right? More elections, you feel like you have a voice, certainly, yeah. Although you could vote for a national party. You could vote for PDIP, which is very unpopular in Aceh, right? or you could vote for Golkar, right? You could for many years. But they didn't feel that those parties represented them, right? Because they were national parties. National parties have to have enough representation in all of the provinces in order to be viable, right? And so an Achenese party, a local party that could run without having to have offices in other places, now could be viable, and so they could be more representative of the aspirations of the Achenese. That was the idea, right? So that was very important for GAM, and what that provided them access to was both power over the budget and the allocations for these contracts, really, right? So that's very powerful for them. Now, the first election in 2006, Irwandi Yusuf became the de facto GAM candidate, okay? And it was interesting because Malik Mahmoud initially said, I don't think we have someone who is ready to be governor, so we'll run someone who is a vice governor candidate. But then the district commanders, there were 17 of them, they got together and said, we want someone who is from GAM to be the candidate for governor. And we want it to be Irwandi Yusuf. So initially you had these, actually 14 of the 17 got together and said, we support Irwandi Yusuf to be the candidate for GAM. And that was coming from the district commander level, not from Malik Mahmoud. So Malik Mahmoud only reluctantly supported that later on. And Irwandi Yusuf won the election. He became the first governor after the peace agreement. And it was a relatively successful election because there wasn't so much violence. But then in 2011, Malik Mahmoud said, okay, now I want my person to be the governor of Aceh. So Malik Mahmoud convened a meeting of 17 commanders, district commanders, plus Muzakkar Manaf, and they all were coming together, and the district commanders thought this was going to be a discussion for them to decide who will be the GAM candidate. Instead, what happened was Malik Mahmoud said, okay, as Prime Minister of GAM, the leader, the Wali Nangro, I am going to pick Zaini Abdullah, the former foreign minister of GAM, to be the candidate for governor. And the vice governor candidate will be Muzakkar Manaf, my right-hand man, okay? And at this meeting, 14 of the 17 district commanders were unhappy with that. They thought it would be more of an open discussion. And they supported Irwandi. They thought Irwandi was doing a good job, and they wanted to keep him in place because Zaini Abdullah, he was in Sweden the entire time. So they didn't really think he paid the price that Irwandi Yusuf did, right? So there was this split between Muzakkar Manaf / Malik Mahmoud and Irwandi Yusuf and 14 of the district commanders. So there's already this tension. How did this get resolved? Well, during that meeting, this came to a head when this gentleman on the left, his name was Tengku Chage. So Tengku Chage was the district commander of Biren. Okay, he was very well respected among his subordinates, and he stands up and he takes a pistol out of his belt and puts it on the table, and he says, "We're not going along with this," right? And this is look at the chair that Malik Mahmoud is sitting in. He doesn't take it very well, okay? So he was very angry with Tengku Chage. 2 weeks later, Tengku Chage is sitting with this gentleman who was a sub-district commander, okay? And the sub-district commander all of a sudden hears a bullet shoot by, like this. So Tengku Chage had a little warung kopi, so he's selling coffee, okay? And he said, Tengku Chage, they're shooting at us. And Tengku Zhagyat thought he was joking initially, and then he realized that it was real when it was too late. He got shot and he died, okay? 2 weeks after this initial meeting where he put the gun down, right? We can infer what that was about, okay? This gentleman over here was the area commander. This is where we're eating satay kambing, very good place in Biren, actually. But before this event in 2011, these guys were part of the in-group where they were getting rents from the patronage, right? So they would get these projects, and they would get money, they would get a car, etc. After this point, these guys were frozen out. In fact, here he was kind of in hiding in a sense, right? And was doing very basic sort of farming, okay? So he was then excluded from the patronage network, okay? And so again, this is where you have both the carrot and the stick, right? And so this is what we see. And so this is where, that's a qualitative depiction of the theory. Now, quantitatively, I found a way to test this by using the unit of analysis at the subdistrict level, okay? So here, again, the explanatory variable in this case is the total number of fighters who were known by the supreme commander, okay? Basically, Muzakir Manaf. Also, the total fighters known by the district commander, but not the sub-district commander. So this is a proxy of indirect control, okay? And then the difference between those should also be should be explanatory. The dependent variables here are pork barrel allocations, so dana aspirasi, okay? So that's one of the results I'm going to show. And so this is where, so pork barrel allocations, dana aspirasi, effectively the way that works is the legislature works with the governor's branch and they say, okay, we want to spend this money, and it's effectively meant to help the incumbent legislators and the governors, right? When I actually interviewed Governor Irwandi when he was out of power, this is in 2014, this is what he said. Most of dana aspirasi is a lie. They're not real contracts, okay? So basically they're used to basically buggy, okay, to pay people off, okay? The second dependent variable that we'll look at is political violence, so attacks on political supporters, politicians, and electoral headquarters. So there's, this is data from the National Violence Monitoring System, okay? So on the first one, on the aspiration funds, what we see is in 2011, there's no statistically significant relationship between whether or not the supreme commander knew your name and whether or not you got more aspiration funds, okay? But in 2012, after Irwandi's faction was pushed out, you can see the big difference here. So now it's a positive relationship because Muzakir Manaf was now the vice governor, right? And so he used that to basically pay off and reward people within his network. And you can see it statistically and very significant, okay? And those who are outside of that network, so the second line, is negative and statistically significant. So this is where they're withdrawing the carrot as well, okay? In terms of violence, right? One of the predictions of the theory is that you should see more violence in areas where the district commander knew your name, where you had direct control. And we see that positive and statistically significant across the board there, right? So that's also helpful and supportive of my theory, okay? So we've tested all sorts of implications of the theory, both qualitatively and quantitatively. I've showed you kind of how we developed the theory. Hopefully, I mean, if you're interested, I could talk more about the methods and whatnot. But finally, this is a comparative project, right? So the success case is in Aceh, right? The relatively less successful case is in Muslim Mindanao, okay? So this is, the green portion is the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, or the arm. The current one is called the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, which is adding a couple other locations. But this is where the MILF and MNLF and all the other splinter groups operate. Okay, now the MNLF, this is the region here. This is Mindanao. This is the Sulu Archipelago. This is Borneo, okay, Malaysian and Kalimantan, okay. And this area right here, basically this island chain, which is called the Sulu Archipelago, that's where the MNLF leadership actually started, right? So these guys, initially, the way the MNLF started was there was this claim by the Philippines on the Malaysian Sabah at the formation of the Malaysian Federation. And the Filipinos wanted to take it back because they said, well, this is historically part of the Sulu Sultanate. And the Sulu Sultanate rented this area to the British, and we never sold it to them. So we still are the rightful owners of this, but Malaysia is taking it for themselves. We want to undermine them. So we're going to send in ethnic Tausugs who populated the Sulu Archipelago, who also historically are across all three countries. Right? You have people in Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines who are Tausug, and they cross these borders all the time. So the Filipinos trained around 200 Tausugs, and one night, all but one were assassinated with bullets to the back of their head. And this sort of betrayal really sort of got to the bottom of the Muslims of Mindanao and said, this is why we have to have our own country. And so they sort of rose up, and about a couple hundred of them went over to Malaysia and said, look, we were going to fight to get Sabah back, but now we want to have our own place. Can you train us? The Malaysians trained them. And those initial 100 or so became the leadership of the MNLF. So the MNLF, that leadership mostly was ethnic Tausug. Over here, Maguindanao and Lanao del Sur, they're also Moros, Muslims, but different ethnic groups, Maguindanaoan and Maranao. They also joined the MNLF initially, the Moro National Liberation Front, but then after a few years, they realized that actually all the leaders were Tausug in the MNLF. And in the initial peace agreement in 1976, the Maranao and the Maguindanaoans were not sort of part of a lot of the discussions, so they splintered off and formed the MILF, okay? And so this is a very different story here where, this really what this I think illustrates is that you had direct control by the MNLF leadership in the Sulu Archipelago, but only indirect control in Lanao and Maguindanao. So the MNLF couldn't keep the MILF commanders in line, and so they splintered off, okay? And so you'll see even more versions of that explain the splintering that I showed you in the very beginning. This area is where the MILF operates, and in this box right here, where I did our survey, this is kind of the most difficult part of it, and that's where you have these people who are sort of from these splinter groups most active because you have very difficult swampland there. So they can hide in the swamps from the government and they can operate freely. But it's also where it's hard for the different main groups to sort of suppress these splinter groups. Also in Lanao, this is like near Marawi City, the MILF had a hard time putting down some splinter groups up there, and that's what we saw in the Marawi siege, okay? So again, I think this is also illustrative of why the theory explains why the Mindanao conflict has been more difficult to resolve. Okay, so conclusions from my talk today for the book are that GUM was able to succeed in implementing the peace agreement by basically taking the resources at the social command and control level from the wartime period as a resource to implement the peace agreement after it was signed, okay? And in particular, they used that network to distribute rents to those who were capable of enforcing the peace agreement, but also sort of threatening those who might splinter off and threaten the peace agreement, okay? They used the main faction under the Supreme Commander to use violence as a stick against splinter groups. And so here's some main policy implications here, right? So oftentimes in the literature on peace agreements, you hear about this acronym DDR, okay? Disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. This is a standard package that the UN, the World Bank, other NGOs use, saying, okay, this is what we're gonna do to solve the conflict, okay? We need to disarm the combatants, we have to demobilize them, and then we'll just throw a bunch of money at them and they'll reintegrate magically. There's no statistical evidence that there's any benefit to this, okay? And I think the main reason is the second D, which is the demobilization part. The idea that you're gonna demobilize a military wing and that they'll just kind of go off and reintegrate sort of ignores the fact that that's their source of leverage, right? And it ignores the fact that those guys are the ones who can cause the most problems. So if you keep them mobilized in one group and negotiate with the leader that's able to keep them in the group, that's much easier to deal with. Okay, so in Aceh, what that looked like was GUM kept a tight control over their foot soldiers, and so all you had to do was deal with the Supreme Commander. In Mindanao, they couldn't do that. And so you had to have multiple negotiations with all these other splinter groups, okay? And so this may be a reason why you might actually want to do what Aceh and the last peace agreement with the MILF did, which was to just make them a formal political party. So GUM has Partai Aceh, right? And they're easier to negotiate with than a splinter group would be, okay? And so this is where you might want to repurpose an insurgent organization for post-war politics. Make them just not use violence as part of politics, right? So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much. I welcome any questions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Tajima. Fascinating talks. Before we have the Q&A, we will open Q&A for 2 sessions, each 15 minutes. But if I may have a clarifying question. So you are looking at the case of Aceh as the positive case where peace prevails, and you basically argue that peace prevail is predicated upon whether the rebel groups manage to solve the commitment problem by making their subordinates, foot soldiers, and commanders to stay in line. And you argue that this is mainly because they have this organizational feature, the direct and indirect control. So the plata o plomo, you give plata for those who more capable and cohesive groups, give them the rents, if you will. And those who are quite far away, indirect and smaller, you let them take the lead if they try to splinter. Right. And statistically, you demonstrate that the more cohesive you are, positively correlated with the more rents you get. It's a great book, Professor Tajima, and we're looking forward to read that. But now, questions from the audience. We'll take 3 questions first. We have Dr. Asep and then Usman. Would you be so kind to introduce yourself and then state your question briefly? Thank you. Dr. Asep first.
Uh, Hello, Professor Yuhki. I'm Aceh from Faculty of Social Science. It is really fascinating to listen to your presentation because from someone who never doing research about war and peace, I always assume that war is purely ideological, that people willing to do anything to die for their ideologies. But then you show that a lot of money and material things also involved in the war. So my question is quite simple because you talk about statistics a lot. Statistically speaking, how many % about war is actually ideological and how many % about war is actually material and financial things? Because I think you mentioned some interesting subject about peace dividend, and it is interesting for me to listen that peace actually has some kind of dividend, that actually money matters in war. Thank you.
I can answer that real quick, otherwise I'll forget. Thank you so much for that question. So how much of these wars, I wouldn't want to generalize too much, right? Because obviously I haven't done this for every country, right? How much is ideological and how much is rational? We might think of it in those terms, right? It's interesting. It depends on what unit of analysis you might be thinking about, right? So individuals are motivated by many different things. And actually what we find is, depending on what phase of the war you start, your incentives will be very different. In the very beginning of an insurgency, there's a very high chance that you'll be killed. So in the 1970s, when Aceh Merdeka was founded, the likelihood of survival was very low. It's very irrational to fight. Now, why do you fight then? You fight for these non-rational mechanisms, right? Some are emotions, some are norms. So one of my biggest influences was on my committee. His name is Roger Peterson from MIT. So he did a lot of really interesting work thinking about what is it that sort of gets people to start and join insurgent groups. And the initial ones, they're motivated by either ideological concerns or by norms of patriotism and honor, right? And then the second joiners, they'll go to your friends or your relatives and say, okay, we're going to use peer pressure here. We're going to use norms of honor and say, or norms of reciprocity. So this is, again, normative rather than rational, okay? And so initially, you actually have non-rational mechanisms, typically, right? Because the probability of success is very low, okay? As you go on, though, and you start to have an institution that's built up, there could be rents that you can extract. So there was this thing in Aceh called pajak nangro, right? That's basically state taxes that GAM would collect. Now, some of it was to fund their operations, right? Their parallel governance structure. Some of it was pocketed by individuals, okay? So you could get a rational, materialist motivation. And what we know from the literature is those who are motivated by material are not as reliable soldiers as those who are motivated by ideology or norms. And on the East Coast, remember, that's where the insurgency started, so those people were much more reliable. On the West Coast, the fighters there had a reputation for abusing the locals and being involved in criminality. And so there's actually some variation there. It's hard to really generalize this, but I would say there's a mixture, and probably not surprisingly, my own intellectual influences are mixed. So Roger Peterson is on the normative side, and then on the chair of my committee was Robert Bates, who is a famous rationalist. So that's the approach that I take, actually. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. we have Usman and then later the gentleman here first and then Prof. Haris. Usman. Introduce yourself first.
Greetings to everyone. Prof, thank you very much for your insightful lectures. I am Usman Kaur, MA Political Science student from the Gambia, West Africa. First, before going to my question, I would like to thank you once again for the insightful lectures. And the lessons I draw from your lectures is very important, and key among them are, for there to be peace, there needs to be more civil-military relations, and again, community sensitization for peace to prevail, and as well as the use of technology and social media to promote peace. Now to my question. To stop or avert the coming up of insurgent groups, don't you think there should be more meritocracy, inclusivity, and inequality within military factions of the government to stop insurgents, to stop the rising of insurgent groups?
So, could I just clarify your question? So the question is, within the military, there should be more meritocratic?
Meritocracy, equality, when it comes to promotion and inclusivity, because if these things are done, I believe the rise of insurgent group can be mitigated. What do you think about that, please?
It's a good question. I think it depends on the nature of the conflict, right? In Aceh, the military itself was seen as the enemy, right? So whether or not you had meritocracy or equality within the Indonesian military was irrelevant to the Free Aceh movement, because what they didn't see themselves as part of that, right? Perhaps professionalism could help, right? Because then you see less abuse of the civilian population. So that could be a positive of what you're talking about. But I think it's secondary to the internal dynamics within the insurgencies, right? That said, you know, there was an interesting, there's a study that I did in Mindanao where there was a survey of former MNLF fighters who were integrated into the armed forces of the Philippines, the Filipino military, as part of the peace agreement in 1996. And that was actually an interesting question, which was, is it possible for former rebels to become part of the government military, which could then be used to help resolve some conflicts afterwards? And it was, you know, actually these units were seen with great skepticism by the Filipino government. First, because they didn't have the education level that was normally required for military recruits, but also because they questioned their loyalty. And we found that of all the people that we surveyed, there's only one instance of anyone defecting back to the MNLF. And we believe that the reason is rational, actually. People were motivated by the prospect of getting a pension, right? So if you rebel, then you give up your pension. So this is where rationality actually kept them in line, and they were actually very effective in helping to sort of fight against some of the armed groups that were splinter groups in the region. Yeah, thank you.
And I think we have one question from the gentleman up front. Would you be so kind and introduce yourself first?
Thank you so much. My name is Ehsan from Philippines. I'm from Mindanao, from the tribe of Maranao. So it's very interesting about this study because I personally know some of the context that you have mentioned, including the formation of the MNL group. They were formed because President Marcos back then actually assassinated the group of people he sent to Sabah Island to silence them about the operation. So based on the discussion so far, and based on the topic, how peace prevails. So what are the resistance and what are the actors that can contribute to the keeping of the peace? It's very interesting that most of the data are of what you have considered rational motivation, like economic and political factor and social factors. But I am curious about what seems to be non-economic and non-political factor, or non-economic and non-political motivation for the insurgent groups and how peace will prevail. For instance, religion. Because in case of Mindanao, the primary reason why MILF splitted from MNLF was due to religion. Because according to this, MNLF primarily consists of Tausug, and they have dominated the rents or the distribution of rents. But that's actually one of, not just from economic perspective, but from religious perspective, because the primary motivation of this insurgency is to establish Sharia law in Mindanao. But the thing is, the founder of MILF is Ustad Hashim Salamat. He cannot be considered extremely religious because they actually founded MILF in Al-Azhar University in Egypt. And we all know Egypt is not extreme. They promote wasatiyah, they promote moderation. So I'm curious if during that time you spent on Mindanao and studying how insurgency splintered into groups because of the distribution of rents dominated by one group. But what about the religious aspect? Because the founder of MILF, he actually rejected financial incentives. He actually rejected political power. And he was even interviewed by a Japanese researcher sponsored by Toyota Foundation about why does he insist on rejecting peace negotiation, even though most of the offerings from the government has been presented to him. And his response is that because the government themselves do not stick to their own commitment. Because in peace agreement, both sides must compromise, and both sides must offer some leeways into achieving peace agreements, right? But here's the thing. You mentioned about the demobilization, the decommissioning of the camps, like Camp Abu Bakar and other camps. But the agreement was, if we are to remove our camps, you must reduce or eliminate your military presence in Mindanao. So in Mindanao right now, it's still filled with military presence, not only by the Philippine government, but even American military camps. So that's the problem, because the Muslims in Mindanao, they want to reduce those presence because they lack control, or because some of the corruption happening in Mindanao lands are committed by Filipino soldiers and American soldiers. And they could not do anything because anything that they do will be deemed as extreme, will be deemed as rebellious. That's all. Thank you.
We have more comments than questions, actually.
No, this is great. So thank you for your questions, and so I agree that so the framework here is one that certainly has this rationalist bent to it, right? But one of the things that we see is it's harder when you have a group that's focused more on the ideological concerns, right? Whether that's religious or political or whatever it might be. Those who were true believers, the sort of material side, it becomes less important, as you say, right? And so actually in the 2008 failed peace agreement, it was partially, I would say, because, and the ones who I've spoken to, was because the Philippine government was seen as an unreliable or non-credible partner, right? Because they had a handshake agreement, and the Supreme Court sort of threw it out, right? So then members of the MILF, 3 commanders in particular, Commander Bravo from your area, Ali Suleiman also from your area, these 2 in Maranao, right? In the Lanao area. And then the third one, which is Umbracato from the SPMS box, who was a Maguindanao. The three of them were seen as more maybe religiously focused, and they splintered off. They said, we're not following this peace agreement, especially since the government of the Philippines is not reliable. So actually what it took was an internal negotiation between the MILF leadership and those three. Two of them came back to the fold, Ali Suleiman and Commander Bravo from Lanao, right? The third one, Umbracato, formed the BIFF, which is one of the splinter groups, right? He was the one who was saying, no way, I am not joining again. Interestingly, when I was doing field work in Cotabato City, there was a session of the parliament there, and Commander Bravo was very angry. So Commander Bravo and Ali Suleiman both have positions in the Bangsamoro government, right? And they're sort of given a special place, primarily because they're seen as potential. They're the ones who splintered off, so they want to keep them in the fold, right? Now the problem was during the plebiscite, in which the different regions were to decide whether they would want to join the Bangsamoro, the BARM, right? They said, well, we don't want to be part of the BARM. And that actually upset Commander Bravo, because then he no longer had a base to represent. And so he was very angry, and so there had to be a discussion. I'm not sure exactly how they resolved it, but there was certainly the challenges that you mentioned, which is, which may not be material per se, right? And certainly Umbracato demonstrated that he was not willing to take the payoff, right? And that's where it's actually the most difficult to resolve, is where you don't have the ability to sort of pay them off. Now, I would argue that there are plenty of payoffs that were made to the MILF. I went to the former vice chair of the MILF, hold on, Ghazali Jafar, his farm, okay? You go into the farm, so basically I met him at a talk, and I said, I'd like to interview you, and he said, yeah, just come to my farm next Tuesday or something. I texted with him, and he said, yeah, just come. And I asked him, where's your farm? No answer. So I hired a driver, and I said, I just have to go to Ghazali Jafar's farm. I don't know where it is. He's like, oh, don't worry, I know where it is. Right? Everyone knew where it was. So he drove me to this big farm. It's a huge plantation of palm oil, right? And a big complex. You have these guard towers. There's no military nearby. It's all MILF controlled. And you walk in, there are M16s, M50s, AK-47s lying on the ground. I walk in, no one's afraid of me, whatever, right? But they had a big business going on there, right? And there was money flowing, right? And it's interesting because I talked to some of the other leaders, and they basically said this, and I think this is actually maybe a potential research paper in there somewhere if maybe someone wants to do this. The gentleman said, a man only has one rebellion in his life. Basically, once you get to a certain age, you need to retire, right? It's too much to fight. So the MILF leadership, they're old, right? The ones who could fight are the younger guys, okay? And so these guys basically said, another very important guy, I won't say who, said, in war, the conversation is not just about what you say. Violence is part of the conversation. So what we do is we speak at the table, they don't go along with it, so then we fight. And then we go back to the table and then we speak some more. But fighting is part of the language of negotiating, right? And what I would argue is actually what you do is much more credible than what you actually say, right? So even if someone says, well, I'm more religious, I'm not sure that that's necessarily more credible than if you actually act in that way, right? And the motivations for, showing that you are religiously different, you have material reasons to do that as well, right? So I think it's important to follow what they do rather than what they say, generally speaking, right? That's my tip for fieldwork. For those of you who are going to do qualitative research, it's always useful to talk to people, but then cross-check it, and then also try to see what they actually do as a way to sort of verify, right? Great questions.
Thank you. We have Prof. first.
Yeah, just a very quick question. It struck me when you talked about how mid-level leaders would take their foot soldiers out and create factions of their own. Now, as you know, in this part of the world, not only Indonesia, but most of Southeast Asia, political parties are fragmenting all the time and creating new parties out of all parties. It could be said that the same happens to drug cartels that also break up and then form new cartels. So my question to you has to do with your methodology and the utility of your methodology. I mean, have you considered perhaps applying the same tools of analysis to study the behavior of political actors or other groups in society?
It's interesting. So the sort of depiction of the coercive capacity over territory, that actually was a framework that I developed to study these Preman groups, which are associated with different political parties. And so you do see some of these kind of dynamics for politically affiliated gangs, right? So as any observer of Indonesian politics knows, you have these paramilitary wings, right? So in Jogja, anyone from Jogja?
Talk about the Ganjak story.
Yeah, Ganjak, yeah. Anyone from Jogja at all? Gak ada yang dari Jogja, okay. So, when was this? 2006 or so, I started, just on accident, I encountered the biggest Preman in Jogja at the time. His name was Mas Gunjek. Okay, so he controlled the area of Malioboro. He was the head of GPK, which was connected with P3. Okay, and it led to a paper in which I tried to explain why during the Suharto period you only had a few gangs. Okay. The biggest one being Pemuda Pancasila. And then after democratization, you had a proliferation of gangs, right? And it was very insightful when I spoke to Gunjek, because what he said was, prior to 1998, Pemuda Pancasila, so Golkar, would basically bully us on the street. Because they had Pemuda Pancasila, and only Golkar had that. P3, PDIP did not, right? After democratization, actually what you find is that all of the main political parties then got to build their own their own sort of armed wing, right? These Preman groups. And so what he said was actually, to be able to compete at the ballot box, we had to even out the street first. So ironically, when you move from an authoritarian period in which you have gangs that support the main political party, democratization kind of required these other gangs to balance it out. So then you see this proliferation of gangs, right? And actually in my conversation with Gunjek, he died several years ago from cancer. So that's when I was able to publish this, right? But basically, I asked him, so how much do you think about politics? I mean, how much do you care about politics, rather? Okay. So, because it's interesting, because when I was interviewing him, the story was quite interesting. Okay. Basically, I didn't know that I was going to interview him. My friend, whose name will be, I won't share, but he was trying to put me in touch with someone else who is part of another militia. And he basically said, look, Gunjak, works with all these guys. And I was like, okay. So I followed him around, right? And I wanted to understand what his relationship with politics was. And in the process, I learned that he had this rivalry with PDIP, right? And then later on, he brought me to his class. He was taking classes, a law class, in fact, right? So he was studying politics, right? This is a preman who was in a classroom like this, okay? So people who ever watched the greatest TV show ever, The Wire, will know that there's this character named Stringer Bell, who was a drug dealer, who would go to economics classes. And before I ever watched this, I encountered this Preman leader who would go to law classes and doing the same thing, right? And this guy he was so charismatic, but basically, he was involved in the business of politics. He was like, I don't care about the political outcomes. To me, it's all about the money, and I have to understand the politics in order to navigate this, right? And I actually sort of saw an instance of this in the 2017 elections in Aceh. So in 2012, there was violence by the Partai Aceh guys against the Partai Nasional Aceh. So this is Muzakir Manaf's party with Irwandi Yusuf's party. In 2017, Irwandi Yusuf won. And I asked what the difference was. And they said, well, by 2017, we had enough ex-GAM to balance out the streets. So it's very similar to the post-Reformasi period more broadly, right? So I think there are a lot of parallels. And certainly that's something that I've studied, but maybe there are plenty of other ways to study this, I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Tajima. Well, in the interest of time, I have to say that we are running out of time. It's already noon, but thank you again for coming to UIII. Maybe final saying from our Dean, Mas Estri. Please join me to congratulate and thanks Professor Tajima for the fascinating public lecture. Thanks again, Professor Tajima. Yeah. Back to our MC.
Now we move to a special moment of appreciation. I would like to request respected Dr. Philips Vermonte to kindly join us on the stage and present the token of gratitude to our guest speaker, Professor Yuhki Tajima. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this insightful session, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Yuhki Tajima for his thought-provoking lecture. Our sincere thanks also go to the Rector, Professor Dr. Jamhari Maroof, and Dean Dr. Philips Vermonte for their continued support and presence. To all our lecturers, staff, guests, thank you for being the part of this meaningful discussion. Before we officially close, I would like to draw your attention to the QR code that will be displayed on the screen. Please display the QR code. So as today we have 7/7 sale, you guys must have seen that on Shopee, Lazada and Tokopedia like that. FOSS also gives extra 5% discount for registration and making payment today. So please scan this QR code. And also follow the official social media accounts of UIII for to stay updated for upcoming sessions and events. On the behalf of organizing committee, thank you once again for being the part of this gathering. And now I kindly invite everyone to join us on the stage for a group photo session.